All right, Romanian deadlift. So start off with footwear. When you're doing deadlifts and squats and any type of strength exercise, you don't want to wear shoes with air in them, like traditional tennis shoes, Nike Air, anything like that, because when you try to put force into the ground, that air in your shoe is going to compress and you're not going to be able to put as much force into the ground. So 3 options for squats and deadlifts. First is just to go barefoot, no shoes at all. That's how I started out squatting and deadlifting. It's especially for deadlifting, it's really good. With squats, you may need a little bit of heel lift if your mobility is not that great. But for deadlifts, for sure, barefoot's a great option. If you don't like going barefoot or in socks, the New Balance Minimus has very little lift. It's a very flat sole. Chuck Taylors are another option. Both of them allow, some pretty significant force transfer into the ground without the sole compressing and taking up your force. And then third option is a weightlifting shoe. This has a significant heel on it, but it is hard as it can be. There's no compression in there. These used to be made out of wood. Now it's just a very hard substance that there's not going to be any give, and so complete force transfer into the ground. The advantage of these are what Olympic weightlifters use. You've got the additional heel, and so it helps if you're kind of lacking mobility, especially in squats, to get down into a little deeper squat. So any of the 3, either socks, barefoot, New Balance Minimus, or a weightlifting shoe, good footwear for the deadlift. So Romanian deadlift, it starts from the top. You're going to take a grip that is as narrow as you can be without hitting your knees. So you want to be just outside your knee when you get to the bottom. And so that's kind of how you're going to grip it at the top. You don't want your arms way out here because, number one, that's going to cause grip issues as you get into some heavier weights. And it increases your range of motion, okay, how far you have to lift the weight. So you're going to start off with as narrow a grip as you can. And when you grab the bar, you're going to squeeze the hell out of the bar, okay? That's a principle called irradiation, is that when you really lock in with your hands, your muscles throughout the rest of your body tense up, okay? And you'll put more muscle into the lift. You'll be more solid throughout your body. So really squeeze the bar tightly with that narrow grip. And so just pulling it out of the rack, one step back, other step back, and then get your feet transfer. Most people, they'll go back one foot, go back with the other, and then get set in, however you like to do it, but it's just 1, 2. Okay, you want to minimize your movement as much as possible and try to keep it very consistent. 1, 2, and here we are. So from here, we're going to try to put our shoulders back into our back pockets, okay, back and down. You don't want your shoulders flexed forward, okay, because you're going to lose a lot of stability and a lot of strength there. You want them back and down, locked into the rest of your body. You want your rib cage locked down. You don't want to see a ton of tilt like this that causes your ribs to flare out. Lock that rib cage down, okay? And you just want to brace that entire area. So shoulders back and down, rib cage back and down. With the bar squeezing tightly, we're going to flare our feet out about 45 degrees. And from here, we're going to pretend that we've got a rope around our waist and someone is pulling that rope back. So we're not going to break from our knees and go down. We're going to break from our hips, like somebody's pulling that rope behind us. And we're going to go back as far as we can. See how my hips are going straight back, and that causes the bar to go down along my body, and we're going to go down to about mid-shin. Now from here, I barely have my knees flexed at all. It's all a hip hinge, okay? I'm keeping my chest up, keeping my abs flexed, and keeping my shoulders back and down, and that bar is staying against my body. It's not out here, which is going to put a lot of pressure on your low back, but it's right here. Okay, that keeps the pressure on your hips and hamstrings. And from here, I'm going to drive through the ground. Okay, I'm not going to pull with my upper body. I'm going to drive my feet through the ground and just stand up with the bar, with it staying close to my body. The bar never leaves my body. Okay, so from the top, everything locked down, hips go back, chest stays up to about mid-shin, just a little bit of knee flexion, and then drive through the floor, back up. Hip hinge, mid-shin, drive back up. And there's your Romanian deadlift. And that's, that's the way you want to do the movement. If you start with the bar and then you move up to the 25s, it's the same movement. Everything back and down, abs flex tight, hips back, mid-shin, drive through the floor, and back up. The conventional deadlift starts from the floor. And if you were to do a conventional deadlift with just the 25s, you're going to be down into a position like this. And that takes some pretty good mobility to get there. And it's going to be tougher on your back. So it's much better to just start from the top, down to mid-shin, drive back up. And that's the way you're going to want to do your deadlifts until you get to the big plates. Once you get to the big plates, if you're comfortable with how you can do the movement, comfortable with your technique, you can start doing the conventional deadlift from the floor. Everything stays the same. Everything locked back and down. Hinge from the hips, chest up. And once you get to that mid-shin level, well, you see, now you're at the floor. And so that's where you start your conventional deadlift. Conventional deadlift starts from the bottom, and you're going to walk up to the bar and get your shins about an inch from the bar. Okay, so it's going to start very close to your shin, about an inch from the bar. Bend over and grab it in that same grip, that same narrow grip, squeezing the bar as tightly as you can. And then from here, without moving your hips, you're just going to move your shins forward into the bar. Okay? So shins are now touching the bar, and from here, we're just going to pull our chest up. Okay? You don't sit your hips down. You're in this position, you just pull your chest up and pull all the slack out of the bar. So chest is up, we've hinged our hips back, everything's tight, shoulders back and down, and again we just drive through the floor to the top. The bar always stays against your body. Chest stays up. You don't want to be here, and you don't want to donkey your hips up. You want your shoulders and your chest, or excuse me, your shoulders and your hips to move together. Okay, and from here, that's lockout. You're not going to overextend your back at lockout. You just want to be straight. And from here, your butt's going to be really tight, because that lets you know that you're at the top. And then just reverse the movement to go down. If you don't bring your chest and your hips and your shoulders together, you get in a position like this, and now your lift is entirely your upper back or your lower back. So shoulders and hips have to come together. So there you have it. Romanian deadlift, conventional deadlift.